What's going on, guys? Welcome to episode one of Redzone Rants. I'm Paul Crivera alongside my co-hosts Tommy Kelson and Evan Ashworth.
What's going on, guys?
What's up, fellas?
In this podcast, we're going to be talking about all things football, ranging from college, NFL, draft talk, playoffs, all of it. But we're going to jump straight in today. We're going to talk about the playoffs. Right now, tight battle in the AFC. Not really too tight of a battle, I think, out in the NFC. I think it's losing out. Or, well, no, I don't even think the Seahawks could even make it anymore. So I think it's really just a big AFC issue now with the Bengals and the Broncos. Evan, what do you think is going to happen out there with Bengals and the Broncos this weekend?
I mean, the Chiefs are playing Carson Wentz. I don't really think you have to put too much into that. I think Bo Nix should get the job done. Marvin Mims is going to have another 100-yard game, and the Broncos will get in and then get
You
absolutely
got to
beat
stop with this
over.
Marvin Mims thing, dude. You got to stop.
He's
It's
the
just
guy.
Marvin Mims is a
Big
fine
fan.
player. He's not. Cortland Sutton's the one with the
The Marvin Mims
right.
breakout year is going to be next year, and this is the start of it. You can hop on the train or
Uh-huh.
you can be long behind. Sean Payton's first ever offensive weapon drafted to Denver. He's the guy.
Mm-hmm. You say
Just
so.
I'm slowly wrapping my head around the idea that you think Marvin Mims is the number one option out there in Denver, with Cortland Sutton being Bo Nix's favorite target.
Listen,
Um,
listen. Cortland Sutton's not the guy. He's just, he's
all
a
right,
Mickey
all right.
player.
Listen, the Bengals play the Steelers this week. Um, Kelson, what do you think? Do you think the Bengals have what it takes to get it done against the struggling Pittsburgh Steelers?
Yeah, no. I mean, they're fighting for their life. I mean, we just talked about like their odds of getting in are very low, but the Bengals are still going to go full throttle, and Joe Burrow is going to probably pass for 400 yards. I mean, he's going to go all out in probably his last game of the season, since, like I said, the Chiefs are starting Carson Wentz, and so the Broncos are going to get in. And so it's a disappointing season overall for the Bengals once again with a slow start, but that was their own doing. And yeah, so unfortunately, they're going to probably beat the Steelers because Steelers are frauds. But yeah, that's probably going to be it.
Can't the Dolphins still make it too?
Yeah, but Tua's
Yeah,
not.
they can.
Tua's
I
not play. I believe I
Yeah.
saw today, so makes it exponentially harder
Yeah.
for the Dolphins to make it. I think they're playing the Jets, but even that,
mhm,
that's not an ideal matchup with
no.
Tyler Huntley starting at quarterback. I know he destroyed the Browns last week, but the Browns are an awful football organization and have absolutely zero going for them. So I'm not shocked that they lost to Tyler Huntley.
Yeah.
But now for Evan's favorite conversation of the day, Tommy, who do you think's going to win MVP?
Who do I think's going to win MVP? All right. Everyone's going to be happy with this one. I do think Josh Allen's going to take it home this year. You know, it's been long overdue eventually. Who's probably going to win MVP. And this year, I think all the momentum's on his side. The only two other options I think people were thinking were Saquon, but he's not going to play on Sunday, so he's not going to break the all-time rushing record. And the other option is Lamar. And although he is statistically having the best season of his career, he's probably not going to win it since this will be his third MVP. And usually the voters like to give the players their first trophies ever. So Allen's probably going to take it home. The only other option was probably Burrow. But like I said, he's not going to make the playoffs unless something miraculous happens in Denver. And so, yeah, Josh Allen's probably going to take it home.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely get behind that. Reason why we said this is a big topic of conversation for Evan is because he is a Bills fan, as you can see in his background with the Diggs and Chip Kelly jerseys. But yeah, I mean, Allen's having a miraculous season. I think we've had this conversation about a million times with our friends, and we've come to like the the end of the conversation always ends with, do we think each team would be as good as they are without those guys at quarterback, just Lamar and Josh Allen? And I think if you take away Lamar Jackson and start another quarterback on that team, they're still going to be a good team, especially with Derrick Henry having the season he's having. I know their defense isn't great, but when you have Derrick Henry, we saw it with the Titans, and they won 11 games with a bad roster. He was just
Mhm.
carrying that team on his back. And I think if you took Josh Allen off the Bills, that would be a not great football team. I think they'd have probably 6, 7 wins. So I like Josh Allen at MVP this year. I'm not sure if they're going to give it to him. They should, I think. I think this is a great year from Lamar, but last year, Evan, this is Evan's point, so I'll let Evan talk about it. But last year, if you're going by the same logic of Lamar's statistical season, then someone else should have won it. But Evan, you can take over. That's your argument.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I don't even think it's a discussion. I think the conversation's been over for weeks now. I mean, every Ravens fan is going to say, well, he beat him head to head. That's true. It's very true, but he also has two more losses than Josh Allen, and he also lost to the Raiders early in the season. Early season losses don't really count in my eyes just because it's such a different team from now than it is back then. But at the same time, I mean, those are the two Bills losses, the Ravens and the Texans that everyone circles. So, I mean, if you throw those out the window together, then it's not really a discussion. I mean, you can state statistics, but then that's why Joe Burrow's in the conversation still. He's got better stats than all of them. And I mean, people say the QBR thing about how Lamar can have the all-time QBR record and the other top three have all won the MVP. But at the same time, okay, you can make the same argument with the Josh Allen points per drive. He's had like some of the highest, I think it's 3 point something points per drive, which hasn't been done since like, well, the 2020 Packers when Rodgers won it, and then like the 2013 Broncos, which was like honestly probably the best offense of all time. I don't really think it's a discussion, and I don't really think the MVP should be open for discussion either, to be quite honest.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, this is a an argument that a lot of people have. I think you look at Lamar's stats, and like he is having a phenomenal season. I don't think anybody's discrediting what he's doing on the field this year. I think he's got like 40 touchdowns and 3 turnovers. It's just or 3 interceptions. I mean, he's having a remarkable season. It's just how can you not give it to Josh Allen when that team looks like without a quarterback or without Josh Allen, they would literally be in the dumps. I think this team, I think Josh Allen right now is the most valuable player to his team in football, and that's what the award is. And if we get away from that, I was talking about this with Evan actually. I think offensive player of the year could easily be Lamar Jackson. Why not make it Lamar Jackson? I mean, there's plenty of other good players. Joe Burrow could win it. Saquon could definitely win it. Obviously we haven't even mentioned Saquon's name when we've been talking about it really, but Saquon is 100 yards away from breaking the record, rushing record. I mean, he's got 2,000 yards, a million touchdowns. So yeah, he's having a phenomenal season. But again, the Eagles would be a good team without him. They were a good team last year without him. So can you really say he's been that valuable to the Eagles? You can't really, because look at that Eagles team last year. Look at how good they were when they had DeAndre Swift at running back.
Yeah.
This is not that. I think Saquon, with the season he had, obviously deserves a little bit of recognition, but not as much as Allen or Jackson. But I think Allen takes it home. But we're talking about all these good quarterbacks. There's a lot of bad around the league, and I want to get your take on some of these teams that have high draft picks right now. What do you think, Evan? What do you think the Browns should do about their whole quarterback situation? I know they just restructured Deshaun Watson's deal to give him a couple more years and take away some money. But what do you think they're going to do with their quarterback situation?
I mean, honestly, they've already said they're committed to Watson, which I mean, I think it's the totally wrong decision, but they're committed to him. So, I mean, there's kind of nothing you can do. They're going to stick with him through thin and thick. Even though I think that's the wrong decision, that means you just have to surround him with other talent. I mean, I think they're right there in the Genty area. At least give him someone. Hope he can reclaim that Texans run that he went on a couple years ago. But I mean, it doesn't really seem like the Browns, they're going to switch their quarterback. I mean, they had Jameis, and I mean, he honestly did more than Watson this year. And they're going to stick with Watson next year. I mean, they kind of
Yeah.
have to pay him all that money, but you kind of hope that Myles Garrett doesn't leave if you really want a chance to win. You got to hope Watson bounces back and add weapons around him, really.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a weird season because, we saw the Giants and the Jaguars and the Raiders, and obviously they were the top three for a good portion of the season. And you see the Raiders win 2 in a row. You see Jacksonville winning 2 of their last 3, I believe. These teams are, playing themselves out of these top picks, Giants included. Me and Tommy are big Giants fans. They are now the 4th pick overall in the draft. Patriots are 1, Titans 2, Cleveland 3. Cleveland is in a spot to take a quarterback. I don't think Cleveland could take Genty at 3. I don't think. I mean, you could try to draft a receiver. This could be Ted McMillan range from Arizona. I wouldn't hate that. Obviously, I don't hate their receiving core already. Jerry Jeudy's been having a phenomenal season. Elijah Moore is a good receiver, and I think Cedric Tillman showed flashes when he was healthy of how good of a receiver he can be. I don't think this is a bad room for a quarterback to perform in, but do you take a receiver with or a quarterback with a third overall pick? I don't think so. I think, like Evan said, I think they're gonna stick with Watson. I know they've said they're going to. I wouldn't be shocked that they're a team that takes a quarterback second, third, fourth round. There's a lot of quarterbacks that can be taken in that range. This isn't a good quarterback class by any means. And we could see 2 quarterbacks drafted in the first 3 picks, and then no quarterback drafted until the second round. There's not many teams that are willing to gamble on some of these quarterbacks, and I think Cleveland is one of those teams that's just not willing to take a quarterback in that position. I think offensive line's a big need for them. I think Jedrick Wills is in his last year of his contract, so you could definitely see them going in the offensive line range or even addressing defense. Because, like Evan just said, Myles Garrett could leave. But Tommy, what do you think? Cleveland moving on, or?
I actually think they're in a really probably the most fascinating team that I think not that people are talking about right now because Cleveland has a legitimate shot of getting the first overall pick. Because right now the only teams that are ahead of them are the Patriots and the Titans, and the Titans are going to play someone who I forget, but me and you were looking at it earlier, and they're the Texans, and they're favored in that game, so they can easily win that game. And the Patriots are starting Drake May. He is questionable right now, but he's probably going to play. And they're playing a bench Josh Allen Bills. So they can very much win that game. So can the Titans. And the Browns have a legitimate case to be the first overall pick this year. And once again, we don't expect them to take a quarterback. But I think in that case, since as we said, they're going to surround their team with Deshaun Watson, I think this is the time to probably trade back, most likely, for someone who's desperate, whether that's probably the Titans or the Giants, and get draft capital because the Browns need as many picks as they can because, as we mentioned, the offensive line, the defense. I mean, they have a lot of needs, obviously, besides as we mentioned before. But as a right, I think they're probably the most fascinating team that people are not talking about, and that's just only because of how miserable it is right now in Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like you just said, if Cleveland gets the number 1 overall pick, do you think they go Hunter? Do you think they take Travis Hunter? I don't think they do.
I don't think it's possible.
Why not?
Yeah, but I mean, I guess best player available, right? Generational player, 2 sides of the ball, elite at both sides. But do they really need him? Do they really need another corner? Their corners are fine. I mean, they have Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome. That's a fine secondary. You're going to play him at receiver. He's not as good of a receiver as he is a corner. It's just obviously you take best player available, but this could definitely be a trade down spot if they end up with the number 1 overall pick. Yeah. But I think another team that's really interesting is the Tennessee Titans. They have Levis. Levis really hasn't panned out, but I'm really boggled by what the Titans have done this season. Why are you benching Levis, a 24-year-old quarterback, for Mason Rudolph, who's already proven to not be a quarterback in the league, a good quarterback in this league? Why are you benching him for Mason Rudolph when you could maybe see what he's got and maybe not have to draft a quarterback and restart this all? Why? I don't know, but I think what Tommy said, Levis is starting this week.
Mm-hmm.
Again, they've benched him now 3 separate times. I really don't know what they're doing. Do you think they get off quarterback, Evan? Do you think they're going to take a quarterback? Cam Ward? Tommy, what do you think?
I think that, honestly, they're preparing for a new generation at quarterback. I think they're going to give – I think they're putting Will Levis in Week 18 because it's the right decision because there's no reason to start Mason Rudolph anymore. Rudolph, his career is not going anywhere. He's had his chances. And once again, I completely agree with you. I have no idea why in the world why teams do this, why they'll start like the 5-year bench veteran player and act like it's a better move than starting a young player like Levis, who at least has potential and could break out eventually.
I don't see the point of it. Mason Rudolph is a great quarterback in college. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. I'm not saying Mason Rudolph is a bad quarterback at all. He just never panned out in the league. He's played for the Steelers. He's played for the Titans now. He has not panned out. It's just not going to happen. You're benching a young quarterback that has potential. We've seen flashes from Will Levis. Like, I don't understand. I could definitely see them drafting a quarterback here. If Cam Ward's on the board, I think he's the number 1 quarterback in this class. I think he showed it in the bowl game. Shedeur Sanders did not look good. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. he looked scared. I saw something, he was talking to Travis Hunter, and he said he didn't know what to do because he couldn't figure out the BYU defense. Yeah. You couldn't figure out the BYU defense, a Big 12 college football defense. Imagine what that's going to look like in the NFL. I don't know if you could take a gamble on Shedeur Sanders anymore. I'm personally thinking Cam Ward's got to be the pick here for any team that has the opportunity to take either of them. Does Tennessee go with a quarterback when they don't really have receivers? I mean, Calvin Ridley's fine, but Nick Westbrook-Akine, I know he's having a fine year with touchdown-wise, but he's not some great receiver. I don't even know who their wide receiver 3 is. Chigan Conquo is not a great tight end by any means.
I think it's like Treylon Burks. I think they still have.
Treylon Burks is still on that team, I guess, but
yeah,
that team is like they need weapons. I think the Titans are in a great spot to take Tet McMillan or Luther Burden from Missouri. I don't know, but obviously there are teams that need quarterbacks. I think the Giants are the glaring team that need a quarterback here. Obviously, parted ways with Daniel Jones in the middle of the season, and Drew Lock has been nothing short of terrible other than last week. Tommy DeVito was the opposite of the answer. And yeah, I mean, Vegas could have used a quarterback, but Aiden O'Connell's been playing fine these last 2 weeks. They've won 2 games in a row, granted against bad teams, but not many teams really need a quarterback, and none of these quarterbacks are jumping off the board to me. I don't think that anybody's real interested in Shedeur Sanders over some of the guys they have, right? Is Shedeur Sanders better than Will Levis day one? I don't think so. I don't think he's going to be better. Evan, I don't know. What do you think? Or is any other team in play for a quarterback in the first round?
I mean, honestly, I think this year for quarterback in the draft is one of the worst we've seen in a while.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know if I'm confident about Cam Ward. He's supposed to be he could go number 1, which is kind of scary because, I mean.
It's just a down year, I think.
Yeah. Even though you look at Caleb Williams last year, I mean, even though he's had a kind of a down year, I mean, you look at the stats, he's had a fine year. But, I mean, that's a different topic. But, I mean, there's no solidified number 1, number 2, number 3 pick. I mean, people say Cam Ward. But at the same sense, I don't think he's better than Daniels out of college. I don't think he's better than Drake May out of college.
Yeah, this is like you just said. This is one of the worst quarterback classes we've seen in a long time. Some of our friends are big into other quarterbacks. Myself, I'm a huge Jackson Dart fan. I think he's a load of arm talent. I think he's got a load of potential. These quarterbacks just don't jump off the paper to me. I think Drew Aller was one of the best quarterbacks when he went back to college. He's a Penn State quarterback. Is going back to school. He's going to play another year. I think he was one of the best quarterbacks in this class, and he went back to school. Carson Beck declared for the draft. He wasn't great this year. He had a fine year last year, but down year this year. So you're banking maybe he's got the skill set maybe to be good in the NFL off of a down year in the SEC where, we've seen a lot of SEC teams lose in all their bowl games. I think we saw 1 or 2 win. Texas is still in, obviously, but I think Ole Miss is the only other team that won their bowl game. It's just that was not. I think Carson Beck's not a great quarterback. We don't know what Quinn Ewers is going to do. Quinn Ewers could go to the draft. I don't think he's all that either. I know, obviously, a highly coveted prospect, but this quarterback class is bad. Jalen Milroe just declared he's bad. I don't know if anybody watched the Michigan-Alabama game. I didn't watch much of it, but what I watched, he was bad. I watched a video saying that he's telling what play it is based off the feet. His feet are even when it's a run play. His feet are not even when it's pass play. This is a guy that could get drafted in the first round in the NFL draft. This is a bad class for quarterbacks. I think a lot of teams see that. But let's move on from that. I think let's talk about we're on the topic of college. What do you guys think of this format? I think all 4 teams have now lost that had a bye.
Yeah.
Obviously, me and Tommy, big baseball fans, talk about being a bye hurts baseball teams when you don't play for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Evan, do you think the CFB committee has to get together and discuss maybe a new format? And then what would your format be if there was a new format?
I mean, I think this format is stupid. I mean, it's clearly not worked. You have the 4 teams get a bye. It's supposed to be your top 4 ranked teams in the country, and they totally they don't fall apart, but they all lose. And it's like, I mean, you can't have that happen. I know it's the first year of the implemented 12 team, but there's got to be something to go on here. I mean, I know South Carolina missed out, but how do they not get a chance when you see?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's just like Oregon, best team in the country, right? 13-0, win the Big Ten championship. What I mean, they go against Ohio State, probably the best team in the country right now. What are you supposed to do about that? I mean, that's just a bad way to go out. Oregon, great team all year, one of the best offenses in the country. They're putting up 30 points a game against every team they played against. Obviously, that Ohio State Oregon game in the middle of the season, Oregon won by 1 point on Ohio State was in field goal range. Will Howard slid, didn't get down in time. They lost. Unfortunate loss for Ohio State. But Ohio State came out and mollywopped them. Mollywopped them. Oregon looked out of sorts in the first half. They looked like they couldn't do anything. It was 34-8 at halftime. I don't know what the committee's going to do. Maybe just have the top four teams pick if they want to have a bye or not. I have no idea. Arizona State was probably the best team that had a bye. They played the best game, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, that's probably not a crazy thing to say. Boise State gave it their all through three quarters and then threw a couple picks in the fourth and then kind of couldn't hang around with Penn State anymore. That defense is just too good for them. And then Georgia, without Beck, just kind of knew that was going to happen, right? I mean, obviously they won the SEC when Beck went out, but Notre Dame looks great. I think the two best teams in the country right now are teams that didn't have buys, and Ohio State and Notre Dame. I think those are the two best teams left in the country. I don't understand how the CFP is going to get around it, but I think that something has to be done for the teams that had buys. Oregon deserved to not play the winner of Ohio State, Tennessee. I think maybe if you're the number one overall team, maybe you get to pick the team you want to play or the game you want to play the winner of. I think maybe that could be something, or you could have it be the one seed picks who they want to play, then the second seed does it, and you keep on going. Tommy, I don't know if you think much about it, but I think this is, that has to be changed.
Yeah, no, I mean, as you mentioned before, this is very similar to baseball. A lot of sports now, they're trying to implement more teams into the playoffs, obviously because they get more revenue and money off of it. And obviously college football, it's arguably probably the second biggest sport in the country besides you have the NFL and then probably college football is number two. That's just how big football is in America. And I think the committee saw an opportunity to obviously expand. And as of right now, it just looks terrible. You cannot have all four bye teams getting eliminated. It's the first year, so we'll see what happens. In MLB so far, still many teams haven't proved this. But from the players' perspectives, at least in there, obviously, baseball's different than football, but they just say there's no excuses. And, to me, I'm going to kind of agree with that. I think there's no excuse. If you're a bye team, you get the seed, you get a week off. And if you lose coming off, the time off, it's just no excuse for that. So I know a lot of people are not a fan of it, and I'm not either. I think it definitely needs some renovations, but I think that it's at least somewhere a step in the right progress for me.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're trying to make it seem like college basketball with bigger playoff, having more games that happen, more views for them, making more money. Obviously, now in this day and age, that's kind of what sports care about. They want to bring in the most views they can and the most revenue they could bring in. I think like you said, to step in the right direction. This is definitely more entertaining. I watched some great games this weekend. I know you guys watched the same games I watched. This is good football, right? That Texas-Arizona State game was awesome. It was one of the best football games I watched in a while. I thought Arizona State was out of the game. They came back, tied it. They were 1 play away from winning the game. Just Texas, I think, just had more talent than them, and they deserved the win, and they won. But this is going to be something that obviously it's the first year. They're going to have to fix something. They implemented this, thought it would be right. Ohio State wasn't the 8th ranked team in the country. They were never the 8th ranked team in the country. They were a top 4 team the entire year. They lost late in the season to Michigan. Obviously, bad loss, sure. They weren't the 8th ranked team in the country. They did not deserve to play the 1 seed. They were the number 1 team, in my opinion, in the country all year. They had the most firepower on their team. They maybe weren't playing like that, but that is the best team in the country, and they are now showing it. They mollywopped Tennessee. They beat down on the number 1 team in the country in Oregon, and I think they're going to keep on rolling against Texas. I think that might be the best game in the playoff, but we'll move on from college. Go back to the NFL real quick. Rookie of the Year is a tough award to give out right now. I know Jaden Daniels is the front runner. Bo Nix is right behind him, and I think Brock Bowers deserves a little bit of talk. Ev, what do you think? Are we locked in on Jaden Daniels, or do you think some guys deserve a little more recognition for what they've been doing?
I mean, I think Bowers and Neighbors, in fact, actually do deserve a shout. I mean, honestly, if I was going to take one person out of it, I'd take Bo Nix out of it. I mean, you look at the defense. The
Yeah,
defense is what's carrying him, to be honest. I mean, he's a good player and he's a poised player. He's also old, which he had to come into the league and he had to be dominant. I mean, I know the same goes for Jaden Daniels, but I mean, it's totally different. I think you see Jaden Daniels, I see a player that can, I mean, really go for an MVP in these next couple of years, to be quite honest. I
yeah,
don't think Bo Nix is there. I think this defense carries him, and I think it would be very hard if say, him and Drake May switch spots. I don't think Bo Nix is even getting spoken about.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like you just said, I think Bo Nix has had a good year, not based off of him. I think he's made some good plays, but he's not the quarterback we might think he is. I honestly think Brock Bowers deserves a lot more recognition. I know I'm a Giants fan. I'm Malik Neighbors having a great year. But Brock Bowers is doing numbers that no tight end ever has done. Forget about rookie tight ends. Isn't he about to break the all-time receiving or receptions for tight end record
Mhm.
in his rookie year? This
I
is
think you might already have it.
yeah, I might have already broken it. I don't know where he is in yards. I think he's got over 1,000, obviously, but it's just I think Jaden Daniels has been great. I think he was phenomenal through the first 8 weeks of the year. I think he took a big step back. In the middle towards the end of the season, I think he's just struggled big time against some tough teams, which does that's going to happen, especially when you're a rookie, especially when you don't really have weapons. Terry McLaurin's a great receiver. Brian Robinson's a fine running back. Zach Ertz has been good for him this year, but Olamide Zaccheaus and Noah Brown and Luke McCaffrey are his other receivers. Just doesn't really have the weapons around him. But like Evan said, this is just that offense didn't look great coming into the season. I know Cliff Kingsbury is a great offensive mind. I know he didn't work out in Arizona as the head coach, but he's a great offensive coordinator and is definitely going to get looks for head coaching jobs again this year. I know he's linked to the Bears job because he was with Caleb Williams last year. This is that's a good offense. I think Brock Bowers deserves a lot more, and I think he could definitely win the award. If he has a great week this week, I know he already has phenomenal stats. But Tommy, are you leaning Jaden Daniels too? What are we thinking?
Yeah, I mean, both of you will know I love Jane Daniels. I mean, he was my fancy QB this year. I picked him in the late rounds, and I picked him as my starter because I just had a lot of confidence in him. I just, obviously he was a second overall pick. It wasn't that big of a stretch, but he just exceeded many people's expectations. When you look at draft prospects, you always envision that what they do in college are going to do exactly what they do in the NFL. And Jane Daniels has done exactly what he's done in college and done it translated to the NFL. He's running so many times during a game. His last game against the Falcons, he ran for over 100 yards. He throws bombs. He's thrown two Hail Mary drives this year that have been caught, and one game was against the Cowboys that ended up them losing, but still, he's just clearly the front runner for, Rookie of the Year this year. But yeah, I think it's just not even a competition at this point. He's winning it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you pretty much hit it on the nose. I think this is just it's been a phenomenal year for rookies.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what other I can't sugarcoat it. It's been a phenomenal year. I mean, Bo Nix deserves a little bit of talk too. I know we said that he's not as good as the other three, but Bo Nix definitely deserves a little talk too. That offense isn't great when you look at it on paper. Cortland Sutton and Marvin Mims. I know Evan's a big Marvin Mims fan, so I'll say the name. Javonte Williams has been bad this year. That offensive line isn't phenomenal, and they have 10 wins. This is or 9 wins. It's a good football team. I think he's done a fine job with them. But we'll touch on one more topic going into the playoffs now, end of the year. I'll just ask each of you. Do you guys have a dark horse team that maybe isn't getting enough recognition that could make a little bit of noise in the playoffs? Not saying one of the top three teams in each conference, maybe a wild card team that's gonna either sneak in or be a 10-7 team. Do you think any of these teams are gonna be big names in the playoffs? Or
I think if it matches up well, I think the Chargers, if they play the Ravens, they have a real chance. I mean, I honestly don't think there's a better wild card team that could match up with them. I don't think, I mean, honestly, I don't think the Bills match up well. We obviously saw the Texans don't match up well. I think the Steelers don't match up well. We saw that one too. And then, I mean, it's really just the Chiefs. And so I think the Chargers, I mean, Justin Herbert, I know him and Lamar have both had their playoff woes, but I don't really think there's another team besides the Chargers that could really give the Ravens a run for their money. I think they can, if they could stop King Henry, their offense can compete. I mean, we've seen it. I think this is an electric offense, and I think they have a real chance. I mean, if they can get past Lamar, who can't they get past?
I mean, I love the Chargers. I love Justin Herbert. He's on my dynasty team. Absolutely love Justin Herbert. He's a phenomenal quarterback, phenomenal arm talent. Lad McConkey's been phenomenal for them all year. Evan's boy, Quentin Johnston, doesn't have the greatest of hands, but has
He's
been
got no hands actually.
has been a serviceable receiver for the Chargers this year. And they have a great defense. You have to say they have a phenomenal defense. Harbaugh's come in there and done exactly what they needed from a head coach. Just inspire his guys, win games. J.K. Dobbins has even been a great pickup. I know he's had an injury-riddled career, but he's always been a fine running back when he's on the field and had a great year this year. But I'm going to move on. I know I have, this team is the third seed right now in the NFC, but give me the Los Angeles Rams to make a little noise in the NFC. I say this because right now they're projected to go against Washington in the first round. I think a rookie quarterback going into any place for his first playoff game is not going to go well. I think Matthew Stafford being a veteran quarterback like he is a huge advantage for him because of the fact that he's been in so many big games. I think that offense is very, very good. Puka Nacua has been great all season. Cooper Kupp, I know he has been great these last couple of weeks, but has been good all year. Kyron Williams is a top 5 back in the league. And the offensive line isn't as bad as people might have thought it was going to be. I know going into the year, I was very down on this Rams team. They just find ways to win games. They win games, and they have a favorable first matchup going against, I think, a favorable matchup at least going against the Commanders. And then you play the winner, I believe, of the 2-7, which will be, or I guess maybe does it get reseeded?
Yeah.
So I guess you play the lowest seed or the highest seed left, if you look at numbers wise. But I mean that could be Philly, in Philadelphia. Obviously, I know it's a hard place to play, but Jalen Hurts isn't all that. I don't think Jalen Hurts is gonna, I don't think he's a better quarterback in the playoffs than Matthew Stafford is. I think the Rams can make a lot of noise. It's really, I know all the NFC North teams are all great teams. I know some of those teams like the Vikings, the Packers, I know the Lions are probably the front runner at this point. But yeah, I mean, the Rams have been a good team all year. I think they have a shot to make some noise, make it to an NFC championship, maybe even Super Bowl. But Tommy, I know you have a team you want to touch on. So
Yeah, no, I mean, we touched on them earlier. And when I look at the playoffs right now, obviously there's heavy favorites, the Chiefs, the Lions, Eagles. But, there's one team who's finally made the playoffs after years of not being in it. And they're not even in the playoffs yet. Give me the Denver Broncos. Sean Payton, former
yeah,
Super Bowl champion. This guy is a master. This guy, he's a
you
mastermind. He
can't even
knows what
get
he's doing.
together because this is awful.
No, no.
Bad take.
Uh, Kelson, what
No, no,
do
no,
you
no.
see? What do
No,
you
just
see?
just
What,
hear me out. Okay. That last game they played against the Bengals on the primetime games during, I think it was Saturday. Going up against Joe Burrow, one of the best, players in football. Obviously, the Bengals won the game. Yes. But let's not forget that the Bo Nix was down by a touchdown, and led them to a game-tying drive towards the end of that game that led them to overtime. The defense is probably top 5 in the NFL. Patrick Surtain is the best corner in the NFL. That they dismantle a lot of teams' offenses. Once again, I know they have to beat the Bills, the Chiefs, the Ravens, but why not the Broncos? We finally just made the playoffs after so many years. Let's ride.
they might not even make the playoffs.
Let's ride, Bronco Nation. I don't care. We're going to the Super Bowl.
All right. Well, I guess
Yeah,
I'll just touch on one more team. I think the other team in that situation, the Bengals, if they make the playoffs, the Bills should be very scared of that matchup. I think the Bengals are the one team in the AFC you do not want to play. Um, that's in the wild card. I just think their offense is just has so much firepower. Chase Brown, I know he got injured. I don't know how long he's out for, but with Jamar Chase being the best receiver in the league this year, T. Higgins has looked phenomenal these last 6 weeks. How can you say if that team makes the playoffs, they don't have a shot? If they could very easily go into Buffalo and beat them. I know Buffalo's a tough place to play, but you're telling me Joe Burrow, who's had a phenomenal season all year, doesn't have a chip on his shoulder right now. If he makes it in, he ain't going to go into Buffalo and give it everything he's got. I don't know. I know, Evan, you're a Bills fan, but I'd be worried right now if Cincinnati made the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I think it's the two teams. There's two teams that as a Bills fan or as a Bills lover you don't want to play, and it's the Bengals and it's the Ravens. I mean, I think they give you the two toughest matchups you can possibly think. I feel a little more confident about the Bengals just because likewise offenses, and I think
Their
a better
defense miserable.
both defenses are miserable, but I just think there's a bigger veteran presence on the Bills that would give them the edge in that. The Ravens, though, I mean, that's tough. I mean, if you play the Ravens, I mean, even though it would be at Buffalo, I mean, if they can get up and they can run the ball, I think it's going to be hard for any team, not even just the Bills. I don't think the Chiefs can withstand that. I mean, even though the Chiefs just win games, I don't think they can withstand that. The Ravens are a tough team, honestly. I think the Ravens are the team to beat in the AFC.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I have to agree, but you can't put it past Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and co. in Kansas City. That's just a team that always seems to find a way to win games. Like you just said, I know they've had like 10 one possession wins this year. I know that's like a stat that a lot of teams look at, or a lot of people look at and say, well, they lose five of those, they're not in this situation. Yeah, sure, but they win games. They have a great defense. Patrick Mahomes is one of the most talented quarterbacks to ever step on a football field. They now have a really good receiver room with Hollywood Brown coming back, DeAndre Hopkins being handed in, and Xavier Worthy being a standout rookie for them. Obviously, Travis Kelce's been there for forever, and Tommy's boy Isaiah Pacheco has looked awful since his injury. To be quite honest,
Not get crazy here.
but
All right, he's
but
the legend.
but Kareem Hunt is also a fine option in the backfield. Was great and produced at a high level for them while Pacheco was hurt. That Chiefs Ravens matchup could be amazing, or it could be 10-7, like all Chiefs games have been this year. I do agree, Evan. I think the Ravens are the team to beat in the AFC, but that defense has been awful all year. That passing defense is atrocious. And I think a team like the Chiefs or the Bills could exploit that a little bit and give the Ravens a run for their money. I think the Chiefs defense, if they can withstand the Ravens offense for 2 drives, that game could be flipped upside down and the Chiefs could be winning 14-0. And then the Ravens have to fight an uphill battle where they have to throw the ball the whole game. And that's really not the way they win games. So the AFC is completely wide open. As the NFC is too. I think this is one of the most wide open years we've seen in a good bit of time. I think there's 4 or 5 teams in the NFC that can give it a run, as well as the AFC. I think there's 4 teams that can give it a run. Notice how we didn't talk about the Steelers and the Texans. I think both of those teams suck. If you asked me, I think the Texans suck. I think the Steelers. My dad's a Steelers fan, so I have to watch all the games. They're bad. Their offense is bad. They can't move the football, and when they do, they don't score. And their defense just got absolutely torched by a team that does not score a lot of points in the Chiefs. That was I think their first 30-point game of the year. And they're 15-1. Whatever, besides the point. But that Steelers defense got dismantled. They looked awful. They couldn't stop anything. The RPO was working all day for the Chiefs. Xavier Worthy was all over them. Hollywood Brown played great. Travis Kelce had a bunch of catches. That Steelers team, if this Steelers-Texans game could end with both teams getting eliminated, I think it could, and it would, because both teams are bad. I know they played each other. I think the Texans won. The CJ Stroud does not look the same. I don't know what you guys think. CJ Stroud just hasn't looked great. I know his offensive line's been awful for him all year. But this team is just that defense looks okay. Derek Stingley's good. He's one of the few bright spots on the team. Will Anderson's good. That division's just awful. They have probably 4 or 5 wins in division. That division is terrible.
Yeah.
Like the Colts just lost. They lost their playoffs hopes to the New York Giants.
Mm-hmm.
The Jaguars and the Titans have 7 combined wins. That division's terrible. Those teams, if the Chargers end up being the 5 seed, they might smoke the Texans, and and the Steelers would get absolutely dismantled by the Ravens. I think again. I think they did a couple weeks ago, and I think they would again. So I don't know what you guys think, but we can move over to the NFC since we touched on the AFC. Who do you think the team to beat is out here since there's so much firepower out here?
I mean, I think that's the toughest question of them all, honestly. I think the Eagles are the team to beat just because Jalen Hurts, I mean, he's been into a Super Bowl. I mean, in a way, he's kind of got the veteran presence in the NFC. Um, and I think they're a tough team to beat. They got Mr. Saquon. I mean, he's up there with the best of them. And I mean, honestly, I think the Lions are frauds here. I think the Lions are frauds. I think that
That's
offense,
gonna
I
help
think that
people.
offense is going to get
Mm-hmm.
exposed, honestly. I think that offense is going to get exposed. I mean, Jared Goff he's a zone merchant. And I mean, this defense, I mean, who do they have anymore? Who's there? They got no
Yeah,
one left. They
I
got Kirby
Left.
Joseph. He just got snubbed out of his Pro Bowl. They got no one. They're going to get gashed. I think the Vikings are a better team than them. I think the Eagles are a better team than them. I think the Rams would give them a run for their money. I don't see it.
I think the Eagles, like you said, I think the Eagles could be a team to beat. I think the Eagles defense is disgusting. I think they're very good. Their corners have been great all year. That rookie tandem of Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. I think Darius Slay's still there. I don't know what he's been doing this year. I haven't heard his name much, but that's usually a good thing for a corner. But that Eagles team is real good, and they've got a couple D line pieces that have been real good all year. Their linebacking core has been real good all year. I know they started off the season like 1-2, but what they're 12-1 since. Like this team has been incredible all year, minus the first couple weeks where Jalen Hurts didn't really perform at the best. But can we talk about the Vikings for a little bit too? I mean, that team is good. I think a lot of people overlook them. Sam Darnold's their quarterback. They might say Sam Darnold's never been in this spot before. How are we trusting to win games? I mean, he's been a great quarterback all year, and he's as hot as anyone right now. Like going into the playoffs, he's these last 6 games, he got 15 touchdowns, 1 pick.
Mm-hmm.
He's as hot as anybody in the NFL going into the playoffs, and you might see an NFC Championship preview in the Lions Vikings this weekend. Huge game to see who wins the division and the 1 seed. This is I think this could be the NFC Championship preview, and I think that I would go in favor of the Minnesota Vikings and winning this game. I just think the Lions rely heavily on some of these plays that work. It worked all year. Some of these trick plays that have worked and scored touchdowns for them. I don't think those work against phenomenal teams. I don't think those are going to work. I don't think the plays that they run or the fake trip against the Bears or some of these other plays I've seen, I just don't think these are going to work in the playoffs. I think Dan Campbell takes too many risks early in games, late in games, going for it on your own 30. I don't think that's going to win you a Super Bowl. I think, like Evan said, I think the Eagles are a team to watch. I think the Vikings are a team to watch. I think the Green Bay Packers, if they beat the Eagles, have a fine path after that. They go against a division rival. Whoever wins the 1 seed, they're going to play them. And they are very familiar with these teams. I think Jordan Love has been there. I think the team is good. Their defense is lacking a little bit. They don't really have good corners. Xavier McKinney's been great for them all year, but that defense is. Jair Alexander's been hurt, battling injuries all year. But Tommy, what do you think? Who's a team to watch? Who are you writing off?
The NFC, I'm gonna, talk about again. I love him. Jane Daniels, he just does the usual. I do have a little worried. I don't think he's gonna go that far this year. He reminds me of CJ Stroud from last year. A high QB who everyone loved, but he's probably gonna fall short in his first or second game, whether he wins the first game or second. Look, the Eagles are probably the best team, but I'm not gonna sit here and start praising them because screw Philly.
I like the
So
way you think. I like the way you think.
exactly. So yeah, Eagles fans, celebrate what you can. You're not going to win it all anyway, so don't worry. With that, I do agree with you. I like the Packers. Matt LaFleur is a great head coach. Uh, Kevin O'Connell is probably my favorite head coach in the NFL right now. I mean, what he does, Sam Darnold and the whole Vikings in general, they're a scary team. The Lions are just too banged up. Yeah, I think as of right now, the team who I'd probably look at the most, I agree, is the Vikings. They just have the most momentum on their side. The defense gets a fumble recovery or pick every game. It feels like they're
I mean,
doing
that,
High
that
School
team's just
Musical
super fun.
celebrations.
Yeah, that team's super fun. I mean, they Cam Bynum's leading them in movie celebrations every week. It's just a
Yeah,
super fun team. I think the one team we haven't talked about in the NFC is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Obviously, another situation like the Texans, not a great division, but they come out on top with the Falcons losing last week. What do you guys think? Do you think the Bucs have any shot of beating the 5 seed? Um, I lean towards maybe if it's the Vikings. I know I just said I think the Vikings are a better team than the Lions, but I think if you were to put the Lions against Baker Mayfield, I think they'd give him a little bit of a more of a struggle. And I
Mhm.
think that offense is just too good to make bad decisions against a not great defense in Tampa Bay. But what do you guys think? You think they have any shot of beating the 5 seed?
You know, I don't know, but I hope that that eventually we get a Baker versus Jared Goff, or just these current teams, the Bucks versus the Lions, because oh my God, that game will probably be 45-40. That those two defenses are banged up and terrible right now, and both of those quarterbacks will just chuck the ball 50 yards. So I hope that we get a game between them in the playoffs because it will probably be the best game to bet on for any betting fans out there. But yeah, I mean, as for the Bucks long term to win it all, probably not, but Baker's a nice story. He's done a great job this year. I think he's not talked about enough. But yeah, that's probably where I'd leave them at.
Have
I
you
think the
been you
issue,
think of similar things or
yeah, I think the issue with that is if they run into the Lions, the Buccaneers play some of the least man coverage in the league, and Jared Goff is very good against zone coverage, so I think they would struggle there mightily. So yeah, I mean,
I mean, that offense is just going to torch them. I think either way. I
yeah,
think the Tampa Bay is going to have to do what they did last year and just score a boatload of points and hope that is going to work out for them, like they did against the Eagles. Was it last year? I believe they scored 1,000,000 points and won the game. They're going to have to do that again. They're missing Godwin. There's a big miss on the offensive side. Shaq Barrett's not there from last year, a big key part of their defense. But yeah, I mean, the playoffs is wide open. I think this is the first time we can say in a while that there's a lot of teams I think that can make a run. It should be shaping up to be a super fun postseason in the NFL. I know I've been telling Tommy I'm not big in putting any money on any of these NFL games recently, just because they've been biting me in the butt with some of these bets have been placed, and I just I take a touchdown score, he doesn't score. Next game, he's got 3 touchdowns. I just looking at the gambling side of football, it's gotten a lot harder. I think I've moved on to other sports as more reliable, but I don't know. I think it's really tough this year if you had a bet on a team to win the Super Bowl. But last thing I'll say is, if you were to bet on one team right now, you're a Super Bowl winner. Who would it be?
all right, I guess
I'm
I go first.
Yeah, go for it.
Um, I'm gonna take my bias out of this, and I'm not gonna go with the Bills.
Okay.
I'm going to go from a team from the AFC though, and I am going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs. I think they're battle tested this entire regular season. It feels like all they've been playing is playoff games with these one score affairs that they just somehow love to do every single time. I think it's really hard to beat the Chiefs in Arrowhead. And why not go with the most trusted coach, the most trusted quarterback? And I mean, it's hard to beat him in the playoffs. I've seen
Yeah.
firsthand year and year and year again. So, I mean, yeah.
13 seconds. They drive down the field, get a field goal, win a game.
Yeah.
I know, Evan, that's a tough subject for you, but this team is just. I was thinking about saying it. I'm not going to say it because I don't want them to win. But this team is just like real competitive every single game, and like Evan said, just played so many games where it feels like they could have lost or they know how to deal with the pressure. That's a team that's experienced with pressure, and they're gonna get it done. I think they're a lock to be in the AFC Championship. That's just me. I'm gonna go with the Tommy. Don't kill me. I think the Eagles
Ah, Lord.
have a damn good shot, if not the best shot in the NFC. That defense is just loaded with talent, and I think that's a tough defense to crack 20 points on. And I think a team like the Lions would struggle against them. The Vikings might struggle against them. I think the Vikings would be the best team to play against them, just with the amount of firepower they have on their offense. I just don't see how the Eagles don't make it out of the NFC. I think it's the best team there, and they could go against, I think, any AFC team and give them a run for their money. I think if they end up against Buffalo, it'd be an insane game. I think if they end up against Baltimore, they could very well win that game. I think the Chiefs would give them a tough game because they're pretty much just a very similar team, and the way they've played over the last couple of years, the Eagles played a lot of big games. But I have to say, I think the Eagles have the best shot. Well, at least in the NFC, but I think they take it home, unfortunately, back to Philadelphia, where I don't want it to go. But I'm going to go the Eagles.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I'm not going to argue too much about it because they probably stand the best chance beating probably who's going to win again, as Evan said, the Chiefs. They're going to repeat. As much as I hate to say it, because I hate seeing repeat champions, it's just, I like seeing a different team winning it all every year. It's just more fun. When you have the refs helping you out, you know you're going to win the game. And plus, you have the best running back in football in Isaiah Pacheco. Let's be honest. Come on, we all know he's the GOAT.
Absolutely not. But all right,
he's the best running back in football.
Starter next year.
Best running back in football.
They're going to draft
What happened to the Broncos? What happened to the Broncos?
You see, I was about to get there. And everyone's they're going to talk about these people think I'm not serious, but give me Bo Nix, give me him because he's going to the moon. Bronco country, let's ride. We're done for us because he's gonna be eliminated in the first round. Bronco country, we're going to Super Bowl and we're gonna win it all. And hell yeah, let's go.
He's doubling down.
I mean, I don't even think they're gonna be in the playoffs. I think
they might lose 50-0 in Buffalo.
They're going to the Super Bowl.
They also very well could lose to Carson Wentz this week. That's something that would happen. Like,
no,
I think
very Bronco.
I think that quite literally could be the worst take of the year. I know it's been 3 days now, but
his team might not even make it to the playoffs. They might not even get there, and he's come champions.
Oh, please. You people, you're not seeing the vision.
I think they have a worse chance than the Steelers to make the Super Bowl.
Oh, that's crazy. No, that's crazy. I'm not taking that.
They might have the worst chance out of every team in the playoffs in both sides of the bracket to make the Super Bowl.
I totally agree. I think the Houston Texans have a mile better shot than.
Definitely not true.
Think about it. They are so if the Broncos get in, right? They're the 7th seed.
Yeah.
They're gonna have to play in Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say somehow they win. They now have to go to Kansas City and beat them. I know they almost beat them in the regular season, but let's not regular season. Everybody's
that's gonna be a tough game. It would be a tough game.
They have to go to Kansas City and beat them. And
that's
then
why.
We'll go to the other side of the bracket. Where I think the 3-6 game of the Chargers and Baltimore right now should be the second round game.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that the Steelers lose tomorrow and the Chargers win on Sunday. So the Chargers are the 5 seed. And so we can see Ravens Chargers again. They now have to go to Baltimore or to Los Angeles and beat them too to go to the Super Bowl. How is that happening? I'm not sure. But if Tommy wants to put his money where his mouth is, he can. He can make a wager on any of the damn platforms he wants to and lose money and donate back to the sports books, which he likes to do a lot. But it's just
that friendly fire. I mean,
listen, I never said I don't donate back, but I'm just saying that's a donation. If you want to give back money to the sports book, you can. You can. I'd prefer DraftKings so they give me more promos, but you want to donate back to the sports book, you can. I don't know what else to say.
Put $5 on that, it'd be the worst fight. You'd be better off just burning your money and hoping you can come back with something rather than betting on the Broncos.
I really hope this bites us in the ass. I really hope Kelson hits one and
When
said,
Bo Nix is
yeah,
hoisting up that trophy and pointing to God and saying, "Let's ride Bronco country," you heard it here first, okay? I'm telling you right
well,
now.
he's not going to say that, first
I'm not
off.
gonna say that, but
Um, he's going to say, thank you, Sean Payton, because you're the only reason why I'm standing up here.
Might be
Uh,
partially true.
I stink, and you're a really good coach, and my defense is really good. Patrick Surtain, have my kids, is what he might say.
Hmm.
it might be something along the lines of that.
It might be more likely than Broncos country. Let's ride.
I mean, I mean, he's more than a rookie. You know how they always say rookies have woes in the playoffs. I mean, he's been in college for 19 years, and
Yeah, and he
Exactly,
loses every single big game he's ever played in.
but not this time.
They call him Big Game Bo because of how bad he is in college football big games. It's a joke
That's
because
college.
he's so
Exactly. We moved on to the professionals now, okay? And Bo's a different man. Bo's a champion now, and he's gonna win it all. And he's gonna three-peat, unlike the Chiefs, because they can't do it this year, because Bo's gonna eliminate them in the playoffs.
I hope you go viral for being this stupid. I hope you do. I really hope you do. This is just blasphemy. I think. I think we could be back on this, filming next week, and the Broncos might not even be in the playoffs.
No.
So
After players might be in Cancun by the time we're
yeah, Cortland Sutton's going to be gambling all his bonus money away in Aruba, while Bo Nix is crying in Cancun. So yeah, I don't really know. Do you guys have anything else you want to touch on? But
Tommy's paying for the DraftKings sponsorship of the Super Bowl by donating the money. So that's always great.
well, yeah, Tommy, you could work on getting us a sponsorship from them,
Oh, I
and
will.
and
Don't
then
worry.
donate back to them like you normally do. But
Nope.
yeah, I think that's all we had to cover for episode 1. But thank you for anybody who listened to the end of this. I know we rambled for a long time. Thank you guys for listening to Redzone Rants. This is episode 1. I'm Paul, clocking out on our first episode. We'll see you guys soon.